This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our personal and our business lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode number 18. And I'm titling today's episode, This Message Will Self-Destruct. The minute I say that, if you watched any sort of cartoons in the 80s or 90s, or like my kids do, you might recognize that line from the cartoon Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget was a detective on a police force, and the police chief would often give Inspector Gadget a secret mission or a mission. And his mission was always to foil the evil plans of Dr. Claw. And along with Penny, Inspector Gadget's niece, I think it is, they would ultimately do that somehow. Inspector Gadget would say, go, go, Gadget umbrella, and then his rocket shoes would take off. It was always a little laugh. But at the beginning of every mission, this police chief would give the inspector his mission assignment, and ultimately after he read the assignment, it would say, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. And Inspector Gadget would, nonchalantly wad the paper up and throw it somewhere, and it would blow up, and the police chief would get all burned or something. And it was just a giggle. It was for laughter. I want you to look at or think about that imagery. If you watch the cartoon, think about that imagery with today's podcast. The reason why I want to bring that imagery is that many times as we're dealing with this building a business to sell, business owners have a tendency to self-destruct. You see, we spend most, if not all of our working careers working toward the goal of fill in the blank for yourself. Mine is I want to travel. I want to go hunting and fishing on a regular basis. I want to sleep in. I just want to live life without having to work. That's the goal. But many times we work our entire lives for the goal. And in order to reach our goal, we work. And we work. And we work. And many times we work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. All the while we dream of a liberated life. And then it happens, folks. We receive an offer. You're like, Justin, time out. We hadn't even got to how the sales process goes in the business. You're right. We've dealt with how to start the business. We've dealt with various things and facets in the business. But today I want to take a pause as we're middle way through this particular series on building a business and building it to sell. I want to pause because I want to warn every business owner who hears my voice on this. There is life after the business. One of the most amazing facts that I see, and I've seen it played many times, is that business owners are scared of the future after the business. We're scared of it. So ultimately we fall into 3 different categories. We're going to be one of these 3. 2 are safe and 1 is self-destructive. So what are these 3 categories that business owners fall into? First one is you receive your dream offer and then you run out the door and you never look back. You're like, thank you, Jesus, pass go, collect $200. As my grandma would say, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. So you collect your money and you're like, I'm out of here. All right, that's a safe one, right? Adios, thank you, we're good to go. The second category we fall into is we receive an offer but decide not to sell. And I've seen this happen a couple of times. And the reason it happens is because as you're preparing a business for sale, you find out that the business becomes highly efficient. Let's take it out of the business and we'll bring it back in, but let me take it out so I can do a comparison. Have you ever tried to sell a house? My wife and I, we lived in a house for about 7 years, and we sold it to move to our farmhouse now in the country. And we were laughing because we fixed the house up really, really, really nice right before we sold it. And it's like, why did we fix this house up years before? Why did we wait till right when we were ready to leave to fix it up? You're probably like, yep, I've seen that happen. It's no different, guys. In business, it's the same way. So a client of mine, we're going to call him Sam. Sam fell into this arena. When I first met Sam, he was like a termite in a yo-yo. This man could not figure out which way was up, which way was down. The business was running this man ragged. He wanted out of his business so bad, he would take just about any offer, or so he thought. So whenever we began looking at his life, we began to go to work and build the value of his business. We worked on it for a few years real hard, and then after it was ready to sell, And guess what? Sam received an offer. And the offer came in at what we expected, and Sam laughed. And he goes, you know what? I was hoping I'd get a little bit more than that. Little agreed, but I'm okay with that. He said, I was hoping I'd get a little bit more than that. I'm just going to continue to work, and I'll just walk away later. All right, that's not a bad decision either. What had happened is that while we were becoming efficient in the business, Sam rekindled that spark. He found out that he loved his business. He loved the fact that it wasn't running him. He actually had a life again. He was actually taking vacation. I remember the first time I went fishing after the fact. He called me and was like, man, I just went fishing. I haven't been fishing in 15 years. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And it boiled down to the fact that in the middle age of his life, he really was happy again. And his thought was, if I can build the company, spend another 5, 6, 7 years, then maybe I can sell it for a higher value, or maybe not, but I'm having fun again. And that was the second area that many of us may fall into whenever we reach this area of selling our business. Not a bad thing. So we have number one, we sell and take the check and walk away. Or number two, we end up falling in love with our business again and say, you know what, we're having too much fun. Let's work for another 15, 20 years. The third one is the dangerous one. And I've worked with many, many business owners who speak about selling their business. It's a dream. But when the time comes, they can't walk away. The knee-jerk reaction originally is, yes, let's do it. And then they want to shout it from the rooftop. And they're thinking consistently as they enter into this, they're saying, you know what, I just can't. Something's wrong. For many business owners, we understand and we think long and hard about our employees. I mean, I have clients whose employees have been with them for 40 years. We think about our customers. I have clients that I love dearly. I mean, these people, even though we've known each other for a 5, 6, 7 year period of time, these folks are good people and they're part of family almost. I have vendors that provide goods and services that are just outstanding companies. And you think about those and you ultimately think about ourselves. But yet the final decision is made. And when we get ready to sell our business, we hesitate. According to the Exit Planning Institute, 75% of business owners who sell their businesses deeply regret the decision. So let me give you a story to kind of drive this third point home. And I've been talking semantics. Let's bring it home to the danger. Fred is a typical hardworking, I would not want Fred's job, American business owner. He received the dream offer. His first question was, how much is it going to be? And he knew how much money he was going to receive, and he liked that. However, when he got to question number 2, he didn't know what to do. See, ultimately, every business owner is going to face 2 questions which are the deciding factor for us on if we walk away. The first one is, how much money will we get? Money can fix a lot of problems. It can't fix everything, but it can fix a lot of our goals and dreams. Now, money's not the end all and be all. I've seen companies have lots of money that self-destruct. But for the most part, most small businesses, money is going to be a deciding factor, number 1. The number 2, and this is where Fred got stuck, what are you going to do with yourself afterwards? I can remember our conversation. I asked Fred, do you like to fish? He goes, yeah, I used to, but I don't know. He goes, do you like to travel? Not really. Do you like to play golf? No. Well, what do you like to do? He goes, I like to grow my business. See, the self-destructive part for the entrepreneur is never planning your physical exit. Not to sell the business. We can plan that, but never planning the emotional toll that it's going to take to walk away from the business. See, Fred knew he wanted to sell the business. He did. But when it came time and the offer was made, and it was for the amount of money that he needed and wanted, he wasn't ready to walk away mentally. He had not prepared his mind to lead the business. He would take vacations to get away. That was his way to get away from the business. He'd take vacation, go sit on the beach, read a book, ultimately just to recharge his batteries and go back to work like the Energizer Bunny hits the ground. Fred was all about building the business. So it happens when you want to sell in your mind, but not in your heart. Well, this is self-destructive mode. And what I've seen, and this is not across the board, this is not always going to happen, but it's just a cautionary tale for you at this point, because I've seen this. And any business person who's worked in transitions will be able to probably give me a hearty amen right here. But there's some things that we start to do. We start to find every excuse in the process to derail the deal. You start nitpicking the buyer. You start finding every reason not to like them. I've seen that happen. I've seen it where they say, well, they just spoke ill to my employees. Seriously? Seriously. You're going to nitpick the buyer. Or I've seen this happen a lot. The seller drags his feet or her feet on the process. There's a contract that needs to be read and they just don't read it. The seller becomes angry. They become very hostile toward others. Those are just some ideas. Those are some things that I've personally seen. And the reason why it's so dangerous when you start self-destructing, when you've prepared your mind but not your heart to lead the business, the reason why it's so dangerous is because ultimately the buyer's going to see this. And many times, I've seen it, folk, the buyer walks away. And so now here we are with a seller who almost had the, quote, winning lottery ticket in their hand. Everything they need to reach their goals. Mentally, we can crunch the math. It worked. But emotionally, they had not prepared their person. They hadn't worked on themselves. And so here they are with the winning lottery ticket that was just swept away by the wind, if you will. And now they're miserable. And they start blaming everything else about why the deal didn't work.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
Now, maybe some other people listening to this podcast have seen this. I have yet to see a self-destructed person in the deal turn around, rebound, and sell a business. I'm not saying it can't be done. Obviously, there's thousands and thousands of transactions every year, and I'm sure that happens. I've yet to see it. Instead, what I see is the opposite. Whenever someone is self-destructive during the sales process and they receive an offer, many times the business begins to die after that. So why do I bring this up? Before we start into the process of building and selling the business, you must clearly define your afterlife. I'm not talking about after you die. I'm talking about, and you should do that, by the way. I'm talking about your business life afterwards. You see, if we spend our entire lives, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week in the business and have no life outside the business then becomes our identity. It becomes our sense of living. It becomes who we are. I've personally experienced the emotions of selling a business. I personally have gone through it. And I can tell you, even at a young age in my 20s and in my 30s, when I sold a business, there's a part of you that feels like you just lost. So here's some ways that you can prepare your person today. Even if you're not planning on selling the business now, here's some ways that as a business owner, you can prepare your person for this journey that you're headed toward. First thing you can do is you can find a hobby or a charity and to go ahead and start devoting time toward it. I was with somebody this morning, actually, a business owner, and his charity is Samaritan's Purse. He just likes them. He likes that charity. He's very involved in it. I have clients of mine who have hobbies of going internationally and working at missions internationally. That's a hobby. I have clients who have hobbies in racing cars. I have a client who collects guitars. Find a hobby. My hobby is I like to do just about everything outdoors. Hunting, fishing, snow skiing, tubing, camping, sitting on the tractor, gardening. But it's not just as a hobby as a getaway. It is. We do use the hobby to get away and refresh. But it's also to have an identity outside of the business. Your family deserves that. In fact, we said I do to our wives and our husbands, not to our business. What's the old saying? We work to live. We don't live to work. So first of all, go ahead and find a hobby and start it. We should not have our minds engaged in the business 78 hours a week without an out to our outside hobby. Number 2 is know your personal number. How much do you need? And there's the optimal word, not want. We always want more, but how much do you need monetarily to walk away? What's your personal number? So this is where you're going to meet with your certified financial planner. I deal with this in clients on a regular basis, both business owners and non-business owners. And ultimately it is, how much money do I have to have in accounts or income streams in order to meet the level of lifestyle that I think I want to have? And we're going to deal with this in a little bit, but we got to redefine retirement. So what's your personal number? Is your personal number 100,000? Is it 10 million? Is it 100 million? What's your personal number? If you know that number, then you can backwards engineer on how to get to that number. So that's number 2. Number 3, focus on the end. Go way back to podcast number 2. This is what I started this series out with. Always focus on the end goal. Whenever we built our house, I spoke about this in the last episode, we knew what we wanted our house to look like. Whenever I'm building a business, I know what I want the business to look like. Now, it's going to change. I get that. But I know very close to what I want the business to look like. And so when we're focusing on the end, we're focusing on building the business to sell, or it doesn't have to go to a stranger. It can go to your family, it can go to a number of places, but we're building it to sell. So as long as we stay focused on the end, then we're able to add some relevancy that this is not a permanent position. The fourth is selling doesn't mean death. I heard one of my clients say, if I sell the business, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit at home on a couch and rot? And, the modern retirement in the last 10, 15 years has drastically changed. Retirees today are conquering the world. It's amazing. I mean, you can retire at age 40 these days and travel around the world, start a blog, and make even more money doing blogging than you can perhaps in your own business. So retirement by selling it doesn't mean death. It doesn't even mean retirement, folks. Just because you sell your business doesn't mean you're retired. I've already sold several businesses and I'm not retired. I'm living life. I'm loving it. So selling my business, I can look back now on one of my very first businesses I started, see the results of it, and almost stand back with pride saying, I started that. This is pretty cool. I started that. So keep in mind, selling the business doesn't mean death. And the fifth thing on this list here, how you can combat the self-destructive mode, is remember, we can always take the cash and start again. That's what I did. You can move your asset from an illiquid asset to a liquid one. What do you mean, Justin? So you've heard me say before, I work with a lot of entrepreneur doctors, and these are like dentists and chiropractors and veterinarians and optometrists, and the list is increasing every year just about. But I had one particular dentist that at the age of 45 received an offer, and we ran the math, and he strongly considered selling the business. In fact, so much so that we had contracts drawn up and he almost signed them. The idea behind it was he could receive X dollars for his sale of his business, put that into his cash account, and then go start over. Work for somebody for a short period of time and start over and do it again. And ultimately the reason why I didn't was because of family issues that came about, but that was nonetheless a great idea. So if somebody makes you an offer, you're not prepared to sell, it doesn't mean that you can't take the cash and start again. Move the asset from an illiquid asset, meaning a business that is illiquid, to now cash in the bank. So I go back to the question, and I know what the answer would be today, but let's just play this game. If you were offered the right amount of money today, would you walk away? You would probably say yes. Every one of us would say yes today. But unless you're preparing mentally for life after the business, unless you're actively engaged in activities today, which will be included in your life after the business plan, you run the risk of self-destruction. Friends, business isn't worth it. It's fun, but it's not the end-all be-all. Life is too short. Life is too sweet. We must continue to stay focused on what our goals are. So that's it for episode number 18. Like I always say, life is hard, business is hard. The money side of emotional finance, it's difficult. Let's just continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.